That's good. So what were you fellas touching on the text messages before? We said we were gonna throw some joints in the segment. Was that for next time, or there was some back and forth last time? I was missing some of it, but
I mean, this is a bonus episode at this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
somebody sent this joint. This I don't even know what this is.
But that was the level of competition. So before we get into this, I want to do I know you already know. Don did some research after I said that Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell was playing against a bunch of nobodies, and then he had to try and do some research. Who'd you find they were playing against, Don? Who were the studs that they were going up against? Who did you Google?
Are you serious right now? You still
Bob Cousy and
come on, man. There were people back then doing things, dunking the ball, not really. Sky hooks and all that. Like that's the thing. Like, we can laugh and joke about it all we want, but there were still really, really good athletes back in the day, and they were putting up a lot of points without a 3-point line. I mean, it was still a tough game back then, and the rules weren't geared towards point guards or anybody special or anything. They got beat on. I mean, it shows when you're watching these videos. They're wearing Chuck Taylors. They're running around pretty much barefoot for however many minutes of the game, just battling out there. Like, it was a different game. So for those guys to have Defensive Player of the Year multiple times in a row and score 40 and 50 points in a game and averaging triple, like, they were still doing what these guys do today, but on a completely different playing field. I can't take it away from them.
When you look at a highlight, though, it actually looks like it looks like let's just take a comparison of a super athlete like Usain Bolton, right? It's like him running against middle schoolers. Like, am I right or wrong? Like, though. Like,
wait, can we let people know what we're talking about? The text chain started with it started from Dwayne asking LeBron and Jordan, and we said we needed to come up with a whole episode based on it. So that's just the purpose. We just jumping right into the conversation, but not. Go ahead, Brandon.
Or this could just be the preview of what's to come. I mean, we don't even got to dive in like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what ended up happening was we ended up getting on a discussion about rings. And it was, do rings really make the man? And what ended up going left field was when somebody was like, I don't look at rings, which I totally agree with. We got on the subject of, well, we did look at rings. We would have to say Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, because those dudes got rings out the wide. You know what I'm saying? Because somebody brought up Jordan got 6 rings, and I'm like, yeah, well, Scottie Pippen does too. You know what I'm saying? So we started going ham on the older guys, and, we brought up their generation, and, people were making valid points. But what I knock on that is, back then you had those super athletes. You only had one on like every 6 teams. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was 2 super athletes in the whole league. It was like literally like Usain Bolton versus a high school track. That was the difference. Like, literally, when you were watching, look, the way they were scoring 60 points in one game was they would outrun 11 other, like the other 9 people on the court. One person would outrun everybody and score. He would literally pass to himself. He was throwing out. That's how quick he was. Like, it was like taking taking LeBron from today and taking him 50 years ago. You don't think he would be the most dominant thing ever?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And that's the thing. Like, it's not a knock against, the older generation and everything like that, with respect to Wilt and all the older folks that played and blazed the trail, because, the NBA wouldn't be where it's at today. The NFL wouldn't be where it's at today if it wasn't for those that came before them, right? But it's like, you compare it to technology, right? You have the Apple I computer that came out. Kudos to Apple bringing out the computer, but look at, I'm on a pocket computer right now having a conversation with folks across the state and the world and stuff like that. So it's like, you gotta separate the eras. Like, it's what was more difficult? What's a 100-point game or Kobe's 81-point game?
Yeah, I love the way that was a good bring up. You're right about that, man.
Because you have Wilt, who's 7'1" versus the average guy back there. The NBA was what, 6'4". Now you got 6'11" point guards. It's a tough comparison, but it's a never-ending
dialogue. The guys back then were tall too, though, weren't they? There was some good height back in it. If anything, I think history might show that they might have actually been taller a lot of times.
Well, their big men back then were big men. Like they were actual power forwards. They were those stationary guys. But it's like you can't deny evolution happens. Like we're now following high school kids that are doing dunk contest dunks during the warm-ups. Like you can't go back to that. Wasn't even happen during my time in high school. That you're looking around and you're seeing guys that look NBA ready of that time. Like these kids are.
Do we think it's evolution, or do we think the training has further developed?
I mean, that's part of evolution now. Yeah,
Okay.
Even like the trainers and stuff like that, like guys being able to have their sons at 4 and 5 years old have a dribbling coach. Like that wasn't a profession back in the day, unless you work for the league. You know what I mean? Like, and that's regular now.
I was talking about from like natural ability.
Is it
If you put Jordan back then and Jordan now, same abilities, different training, you're saying that the evolution of their game, right? I guess you're saying.
I just think, like, just in general, when it comes to sports, like athletes get faster, they get stronger, and we're getting to the point now of positionless basketball. Like back in the day, if you were 6 foot, like if you were 6'3" and you're in the 8th grade, you're going to be a center for the rest of your life. Back in the day, now if you're that same kid, well, we can make you a point forward. Yeah, and a lot of like the next generations coming out. There's a lot of Giannis and KD, a lot of KD types that are coming up. A lot of long, rangy kids, and then they end up growing into their bodies. It's like Michael Porter Jr., those type of dudes. Like a couple years ago, before we saw KD, they'd be mind blowing to see that type of skill set. Now it's just that's the usual. It's going to be tough to get into the league as a point guard less than 6'5". Moving forward, you're going to be at a disadvantage. It's always going to be a defensive mismatch with those types of guys, unless you're Steph. That's a totally different thing.
Yeah,
there was no Steph. Right.
The 3-point line for him is a foul shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what it will say. But you know what though? So when Steph first came in the league, I want to just make it very clear. When Steph first came in the league, and he became Steph. You know what I'm saying? Like when he became Curry, when he became the chef, nobody was shooting threes like that. Mm-hmm. Now, you went from a team where a whole team, as a productive team, would shoot maybe 10 threes in a game, to now where combined together, they are shooting over 60 threes in a game. That's insane to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? It used to be you only shot a 3 when you were trying to win the game at the fourth quarter. Now you can't go a quarter without them shooting 10 threes. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like just the whole and that's all him. Because look, when Ray Allen was shooting them threes, they didn't care. They were still banging. Am I right or wrong? They were still banging the boards. It was no big deal. But as soon as Curry made it look like a foul shot, everybody tried putting that in their arsenal, and everybody wants to make it. Now, another thing too is, I think, like Philip was saying, like, training has a lot to do with the abilities of the athletes today. But I think the food, you know what I'm saying? Food.
That's what I was going to get to.
Mm-hmm.
You look at, the
different
the growth hormones that are in the food. Now it's like, you see a high schooler that's 6'7", 6'8", 6'9". It's like you don't think twice of it now, but yeah. But without a doubt, but no, and I think Steph is definitely one of those players. One of those generational players. He's leveled the playing field across the board, being a quote unquote smaller guy in the league. But if nobody can guard him from 40 feet out, that's what every kid dreams of. Like, a 3-pointer is worth more than a dunk, so let me go ahead and shoot threes.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest difference, right? Because to Brandon's point, there's always been sharpshooters. There's always been guys that you put them in a corner, you let him float around the outside and he gets a shot every once in a while because they're going to find him open towards the end of the game and he keeps it close. But you can't keep up with a Curry. Like, he's all over the place. He can take the ball up and down the court all he wants. He's going to take you to the hole. He can shoot from wherever he wants to on the court, shoot from half court, whatever. Like, he is in that upper echelon with a KD or anybody else. He's not 7 feet tall, but he plays like it. Like, you just can't guard the guy. As long as he's healthy, you're not guarding him. I think it's more environment than anything else. I agree with what Philip was saying about and Brandon and the training. I mean, parents didn't come out like back in the 60s, like, oh, my kid's playing in the league. It was like, my kid's playing right now because I want him off the street and I want to keep him busy and he's going to get a job after high school. It was, now that's like your retirement plan.
Yeah.
You're going to put Johnny in little league, you're going to put him in soccer. He's going to play a sport every season. He's going to stay busy. He's going to play a flute too in school. Like, he's going to do everything because that's the day and age. You got to keep your kids doing something and keep them multifaceted and all that kind of stuff. But it's different. They're bred for it now.
We should do an NBA survey on how many people play the flute.
Was it a poor choice? Should I clarinet?
I like it.
No, for real. No, it's true though. Imagine. Yeah,
but see,
that probably was an elementary school prerequisite. Like, it was,
That was the recorder. See, y'all messed up. That was the recorder, man.
Oh, Donnie, the Pied Piper.
Like Flight of the Bumblebee.
Wow.
But no, I mean, but in today's times, you get more specialized athletes too. You say like everybody's playing a lot of different sports. Now you see a lot of kids that are only playing one sport and completely dedicated, because you can play year-round basketball if you're doing AAU and everything. So it's a different time even in that. It used to be like, I'm gonna play soccer and then I'm gonna jump into this, but it's like you're not gonna get better at that one sport at an exponential rate unless you're gonna be doing it all year long. And you know, you look at Cole Anthony. Greg Anthony said he's like, I may have been better than Cole at a young age, but Cole got so much better because all he knows is basketball. He didn't have to worry about growing up in hardship. He grew up with a basketball in his hand, and he genuinely just loves hooping. So the next generation, you even look at our athletes, like LeBron's son's about to be in the league. Like, he learned from LeBron.
And there's no denying it. Like,
yeah. And to Brandon, your point earlier in regards to the food, but also the recovery. You know, look how long athletes are playing now. You got Tom Brady, who has the craziest diet ever, but still at the top of his game at 40. What is he, 42? Phil, yeah. I know you know.
I think,
but the access to the recovery. You know, and now that kids are, you know, they're on the court, sitting on the bench with the hyper ice and the Theraguns and stuff like that, and able to recover quicker. So I think having that access to, you know, obviously food, and then the recovery aspect, and just education too. Like, you can go into specialized camps that have, you know, quarterback coaches or dribbling coaches and things like that. It's definitely a different time. So kudos to, you know, the ones that came before us and the ones that come after us too. But it's hard to compare.
I mean, there's going to be a time there's going to be a time we look back at LeBron and his highlights won't look nearly as impressive because the next generation is doing that at an earlier age. Or you see, like, it's going to be the next one that comes up at some point, even if it's not for another 10 years or it probably won't be that long. Because now you got kids that are stars before they even get to college, if they want to go to college. And the league is changing up. I mean, the NCAA is changed up so much, and G League is changed up. So now I hate the fact that when you do LeBron versus Jordan, it sounds like you're dissing the other one. Everybody grew up as Jordan fans. Like, it wasn't like you were a Bulls fan, you were a Jordan fan. Because when he went to the Wizards and he did well, you were still going to cheer for him. You know, there's certain players like that, but no, there would be no LeBron if there was no Kareem, if there was no Larry Bird. If there, like, no, I don't think in their heart of hearts they would say, yeah. Well, no, they're competitive. They say they're competitive. Yeah, they say they could, but
could you imagine if you watching the next Lakers game. I know they were playing the Knicks tonight, but if Anthony Davis is at the foul line and does a sky hook, like
it's unguardable. I don't know why that move went out. I don't know why.
But look, if he did it and he missed, it'd be all over social media tomorrow. If he did a sky hook and bricked it, oh man, they're gonna tear.
But then everybody's gonna be soft if they do a sky hooks, right?
They're gonna tear the brow up, like